Picture yourself strolling down the street in a state of perfect tranquility when, without warning, a stranger collides with you and hurls a vicious insult. In that fleeting instant, your blood begins to boil, your heart pounds against your ribs, and you lash out with a retort before thought even intervenes, utterly hijacked by the situation. In that reactive snap, you have voluntarily surrendered your emotional sovereignty, handing the remote control of your inner state directly to a passer. The reality is that most individuals navigate existence as reactive puppets, dancing unconsciously to the chaotic tunes of others, oblivious to the invisible strings that pull their emotions and actions. The legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi sternly warned against this very vulnerability, teaching that a warrior whose spirit is shaken by an adversary has already lost the battle before his sword ever leaves its sheath. When you permit external events to dictate your internal climate, you are effectively declaring that your peace of mind is cheaply available, for sale to the lowest bidder. Samurai dedicated themselves to cultivating Fudōshin, the immovable mind, because they understood that anger carves out massive blind spots, whether on the battlefield or in the boardroom. Recall a moment you fired off a furious text message, only to be consumed by regret minutes later. That was not your wisdom in command, that was your primal impulse betraying you. Authentic strength is not measured by who shouts loudest or secures the final word. It is defined by possessing a psychic fortress so impregnable that no arrow of insult can truly breach its walls. To sever these manipulative strings, you must first recognize that your immediate, urgent compulsion to react is frequently just a biological glitch, an outdated survival mechanism, ill-suited for modern social interaction. You are not fighting for your life against a tiger in the jungle. You are merely navigating a rude remark or a stressful email. Yet your physiology reacts as if mortal peril is imminent. Mastering this internal chaos demands a fundamental shift in perspective, a conscious migration from a state of frantic, ego-driven defense to a posture of calm, calculated observation. Once you decisively stop playing their game, a fascinating phenomenon begins to unfold. The negative energy they hurl toward you finds nowhere to land. Instead of striking you, it begins to function like a mirror. This principle is deeply rooted in what Musashi described as Mizu no Kokoro, mind like water. It is a state where your spirit is as calm as a still pond, perfectly reflecting everything around it. When an opponent attacks with words or anger, and you meet them with absolute, calculated silence, you become that mirror, reflecting their own instability directly back at them. For an aggressor, it is profoundly unsettling to scream into a void. They desperately crave your reactive distress to validate their anger, and without it, they are left exposed, foolish, and isolated in their own turmoil. By steadfastly refusing to engage in the dramatic script they have written, you compel them to bear the full awkward weight of the discord they created, while you remain light, unburdened, and emotionally sovereign. Consider the nature of water. When agitated and choppy, it distorts the reflection of the moon. But when perfectly still, the image is crystal clear, allowing you to perceive the truth of the situation without illusion. If you lose your Fudōshin and react from raw emotion, your mental waters become turbulent, and you lose the capacity to accurately judge your opponent's distance or intent. The samurai knew a disturbed mind is easily defeated, so they trained tirelessly to keep their internal surface smooth, even amidst the heat of battle. This practice is not about suppressing emotions until you explosively erupt. It is about processing the external event so quickly and cleanly that it never manages to disturb your core peace or your strategic capacity. In practical terms, imagine a co-worker attempting to undermine you in a meeting with a snide passive-aggressive comment designed to provoke a reaction. Instead of snapping back or becoming defensively flustered, which would only make you appear weak, you simply look at them, institute a deliberate pause, and say nothing. The stretching silence grows heavy and loud, often causing the aggressor to stutter or backpedal as they realize their attack has failed to land. This potent use of silence creates a vacuum that pulls the underlying truth to the surface. However, to maintain such composed clarity, you must master a specific way of perceiving the world, known as the gaze of the void. To achieve this level of strategic detachment, you must practice what the samurai called Enzan no Metsuke, gazing at the distant mountain. Musashi taught that you should observe a close enemy as if they were far away, taking in the entire panorama rather than fixating narrowly on their weapon, or, in modern terms, their insulting words. When you focus too intensely on the specific provocation, your vision tunnels. You sacrifice your emotional sovereignty and become sucked into their distorted reality. By consciously widening your gaze, you cease to see the insult as a personal attack and start to view it as a small, insignificant event within the vast landscape of your life and purpose. This broad perspective grants you access to the void, a mental space where you are fully present yet completely disentangled, observing the chaos without becoming a participant within it. Most people operate with debilitating tunnel vision, obsessing over a single rude comment for days, replaying it mentally until it consumes them. A warrior with Fudōshin, however, perceives that same comment like a passing cloud in a vast sky. It is present, but it does not alter the fundamental nature of the sky itself. It is the critical difference between staring paralyzed at a tiny crack in a windshield and looking through the glass to drive the car safely forward. One perspective paralyzes you, the other grants you freedom. Applying Enzan no Metsuke means that when trouble arises, you physically soften your focus and mentally step back to ask a pivotal question. Will this matter in 5 years, or even in 5 days? This simple cognitive shift instantly cools the flames of anger because you are no longer fixated on the spark. You are surveying the entire horizon of the fire. It transforms a potential personal tragedy into a detached comedy, allowing you to inwardly smirk at the absurdity of the situation rather than raging against it. Yet, knowing how to look is only half the battle. You also require a concrete, immediate mechanism to prevent your mouth from moving before your brain has a chance to catch up. A mental fortress that can be constructed in seconds. This fortress is built upon a simple, non-negotiable rule that acts as a circuit breaker for your reactive brain: the 3-sick pause. Between the moment you are provoked and the moment you choose to respond, there exists a tiny window of space where your true freedom resides. Most people, however, skip right over it like reactive puppets. When you feel that surge of adrenaline, you must force yourself to stop and count deliberately to 3. This is not a quick count, but a strategic, deliberate pause that actively separates the external event from your internal reaction. Musashi never rushed blindly into a strike without foreseeing the outcome. Similarly, you must treat your words as arrows that once loosed cannot be retrieved. Therefore, they must be aimed with deadly precision. Physically, this practice requires you to ground yourself immediately, often by taking a sharp, deep breath into your lower belly, what Japanese tradition calls the tanden, the center of spiritual energy. During those 3 seconds, you are not merely waiting idly. You are actively suppressing the animalistic urge to defend your fragile ego, effectively rebooting your operating system from primal survival mode into logical strategic mode. This brief delay allows your prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational judgment, to come back online, granting you the clarity to decide if the situation genuinely deserves your energy or if calculated silence is the far superior move. It is a small, disciplined act that can prevent a lifetime of regret, transforming you from a victim of circumstance into a master of timing. To you, in the heat of the moment, these 3 seconds may feel like an eternity spent holding back a tidal wave of emotion. But to any outside observer, It appears as terrifying confidence and unshakable poise. Silence in the face of noise signals high status because it demonstrates you are not desperate to prove anything, and that your internal Fudōshin is infinitely stronger than their external chaos. By refusing to snap back instantly, you deny the aggressor the immediate feedback loop they are addicted to, and this denial begins to have a strange, deteriorating effect on their hostility. When you deny someone a reaction, you are essentially starving a fire of its oxygen, watching it flicker and die out on its own. An angry person is seeking a conflict to validate their own chaotic feelings. They need you to play the role of the reactive puppet, to complete their dramatic loop. If you decline to play your assigned part, their entire script falls apart, and they are left standing alone on stage, with no one to applaud their outburst. Musashi understood that to defeat an enemy, you do not always need to strike them directly. Sometimes, you simply cut off their supply lines and watch them weaken from a lack of engagement. Biologically, such provocateurs are hunting for a dopamine hit that comes from provoking you, attempting to steal your emotional sovereignty to briefly inflate their own sense of power. By maintaining a mind like water and refusing to ripple under their pressure, you disrupt their psychological reward system, leaving them frustrated and confused. This is a form of passive warfare where your calculated silence inflicts more damage on their ego than any retaliatory insult ever could. They wish to drag you down into the mud with them, but you remain elevated, untouchable, and secure within the void. As they gradually realize that their usual tactics of intimidation and manipulation are useless against your Fudōshin, a natural shift in the power dynamics occurs. They begin to tire themselves out, expending energy on an immovable object while you conservatively preserve yours for pursuits that truly matter to your mission. This process of starvation does more than merely diffuse an immediate conflict. It begins to construct a reputation around you. People start to recognize that you are not like the others, and this perception transforms you into something far more formidable, an unpredictable warrior. By consistently refusing to react on impulse, you become the most dangerous type of person in any room, the one who cannot be easily figured out or manipulated. If people know that pushing certain buttons will reliably make you angry or sad, they possess a map of your psyche and can steer you accordingly. But when you practice calculated silence and shield your intentions behind a mask of calm composure, you destroy that map, leaving them to navigate in complete darkness. Miyamoto Musashi taught that a warrior should be formless, having no fixed stance for an enemy to read. In life, your unshakable mind is that very formlessness, making it impossible for others to predict your next move or manipulate your emotional state. This air of mystery naturally commands respect and generates a gravitational pull of authority around you. Humans are biologically hardwired to fear the unknown. When you do not broadcast your every thought and feeling, people instinctively assume you possess a hidden strength or knowledge they lack. While everyone else is spilling their emotional guts, acting as reactive puppets at the slightest provocation, your profound composure signals that you are operating on a higher plane of discipline and self-mastery. You become akin to the deep ocean. On the surface there may be waves, but deep below, in the void where your true power resides, there is only silent, crushing pressure that no one dares to test. Ultimately, the journey to becoming an unpredictable warrior transcends mere social strategy. It is about reclaiming your total, inalienable freedom to exist on your own sovereign terms. You cease to function as a thermometer, merely reflecting the emotional temperature of the room, and you become the thermostat that deliberately sets it. Armed with emotional sovereignty, you walk through the world with minimal friction, allowing insults and external chaos to pass directly through you as if you were a ghost. This apex level of mastery undeniably requires daily, dedicated practice, But the profound result is a life where you are the authoritative master of your fate, no longer a slave to the whims and chaos of others.